Now, news from around the world in a segment we call Meanwhile in. Meanwhile, in Turkey, Al Jazeera reports that evidence has been collected that implies that murdered Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi's body might have been disposed of by burning it in an outdoor furnace, which is as horrifying and awful as it initially sounds. Turkish authorities monitored the burning of the outdoor furnace from outside the premises as bags believing to be containing his body parts were transferred to the Saudi consul's home after he was killed inside the consulate a few hundred meters away. Al Jazeera interviewed a worker who constructed the furnace, who stated it was built according to specifications from the Saudi consul. It had to be deep and withstand temperatures above 1,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt metal. I don't know what the alternative explanation is for why you would need to be able to literally melt metal on the premises. Maybe there's something that they do at consulates that I'm not familiar with. And this is awful. Large quantities of barbecue meat were grilled in the oven after the killing in order to cover up the cremation of the Saudi writer's body, Turkish authorities reported. So, look, at this point, we don't know for sure that this is what happened, but apparently the evidence seems to point in that direction. We do know that months and months after the killing, no body has turned up. The White House is dragging its heels and missing deadlines on when they're supposed to be reporting to Congress on exactly what happened. But as the details are coming out, it's only looking worse and worse. Meanwhile, in Germany, a parade was held that had no F's left to give and provided some political commentary that I would define as unambiguous. So this is in Dusseldorf, and one float portrayed a naked Trump as the guardian angel of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman clutching a bloody chainsaw. That was a reference, of course, to the killing we just talked about of Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate. Another float showed Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin ripping up a nuclear arms treaty. And a few weeks before Britain is due to leave the European Union, Theresa May was depicted with a long nose impaling a man wearing a Union Jack hat and carrying briefcases marked economy. This is like a political cartoon if a political cartoon was towering above you and was horrifying. I wish, by the way, we could show you the photos. The AP was being oddly restrictive on showing you it. But look up Dusseldorf Trump chainsaw. It'll come up. It's very graphic, by the way. And I would also say the depiction of Mohammed bin Salman seems maybe a little bit racist. I know he's a murderer and a dictator and all that, but I think we could be a little bit careful with some of the stereotyping in our political floats. Anyway, we don't have stuff like this in the US as far as I know, but it's awesome. It's certainly works of art, and I would like to see more of that. Meanwhile, in the UK, we might be witnessing a significant step forward in the treatment of HIV. So, in the history of HIV/AIDS, only a single person is believed to have been cured of the virus. This is Timothy Ray Brown, an American known as the Berlin patient, who had HIV for more than a decade, until 2 stem cell transplants in 2007 and 2008 cleared it from his body. So that was a decade ago, and there had been only one. Now we believe there might actually be a second. Like Brown, the new patient had a form of cancer and received a treatment involving chemotherapy to wipe out his immune system and replace it via stem cell transplant with non-malignant donor cells. In both cases, the donor cells also carried an added benefit, a genetic mutation that leads to HIV immunity. In September of 2017, 16 months receiving the transplant, the patient went off his antiretroviral drugs for HIV, yet still tested negative for the virus. So far, he's remained HIV-free after well over a year. So in a time when we can literally count on less than one hand how many people this has worked with, any additional person adding to that list is significant. And for people who are still dealing with this, I understand that HIV and AIDS are two things that we don't really talk about anymore. Obviously, it wasn't talked about enough at the beginning. Then it received some coverage once it started to affect the sort of people that the media actually cares about. And now it's still a thing. It still affects lots of people, new cases and all of that. It's certainly more treatable, but curable is a different matter, and it is very good to see progress moving in that direction as well. Meanwhile, in Meanwhile, around the world in the very near future, a series of climate rallies are going to be held, focusing heavily on the exact same sort of youth-led climate change, but pressing for the need to do something about it. We've had that here. It's going to be happening around the globe, actually. On March 15th, just a couple of weeks away, tens of thousands of high school and middle school students in more than 30 countries plan to skip school to demand that politicians treat the global climate crisis as the emergency it is. Hopefully the leaders of all of these countries will treat them with more respect than Feinstein did not that long ago. Greta Thunberg, a big activist in the area, said, if you think that we should be in school instead, then we suggest that you take our place in the streets, striking from your work. Or better yet, join us so we can speed up the process. That is awesome. She's awesome, by the way. Look up some of what she has done before. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.